It's Wednesday, June the 19th. Lake level's right at about 917 1/4. It's actually come up a little bit, which is good. It's putting a little bit more water in some of the bushes. The water temperature is kind of all over the place. It depends where you're at. You know, a lot of the main lakes about 75 degrees. Later in the days, when it's not clouded up, when the sun's up, you'll find some 77, 78. And way up in the rivers, I've actually found some 65 to 68 degrees, way up in the river arms. But a little bit of everything going on. The drop shot bite and the deeper bite's getting better. It seems like the best drop shot bite to me seems like it's probably Shell Knob to Baxter in that area, out there off them long gravel flats. It's kind of happening all over the lake, but I'm finding the fish, more of them, and they're a little bit more grouped up out there in that end of the lake from, like I say, from Campbell Point to Baxter and a little above Campbell. But they seem to be out there on them long gravel flats, about 25 to 30 foot deep. A lot of days they'll be suspended out over 50 or 60 foot of water, and other days they'll be just right off the bottom. And what I've been using to catch them is just standard old drop shot stuff, like a Chomper's brown purple laminated worm will work real good. I've been throwing a lot of, it's a Strike King Dream Shot, yeah. But it's in a morning dawn color. Another one that Strike King makes, it's a, I think it's called a cracker shell or half cracker. Seems like the fish get a little fussy, this bait's working good. And here's the Chompers, you know, brown purple lamb. And then this has kind of been a favorite one of mine for years. A buddy of mine hand pours these in his plum. But if you notice, almost all the colors of drop shot worms are pretty much the same. And you know, the watermelons and green pumpkins will work, but I just seem to have a lot better luck. Something with a little blue or plum hue to it seems to work best for me. And fishing that on a spinning rod, about a 1/4 ounce weight, 6 or 8 pound line. And you know, there's more fish moving out there on that structure stuff, but there's still quite a few fish shallow and in between. Now there's some up there real shallow in the bushes, and there's still quite a few fish in that 12 to 15 foot range. The 12 to 15 to 20 foot range, I've been catching a lot of them on a jig and a shaky worm. The jigs that have been working good for me is like peanut butter and jelly, green pumpkin orange, still working real well. The crawdads got a lot of orange in them. I'm using a lot of different trailers. This one has a baby rage craw. This one here has a Zoom ultra vibe speed craw on it. And even on the speed craw, I'm using something with either a watermelon or watermelon red or green pumpkin with red, trying to get a little red flake in it. And the same with my other trailer. And if you want to move, if you need to move out a little bit deeper, I am catching some fish in that 25 and 30 foot range on football jigs. I'll use the 5 fish ultimate finesse jig out to about 20 feet, 25. It seems like I get deeper than that, I'll pick up either a 5/8 or 3/4 ounce. This is a pig sticker football jig. This one is green pumpkin purple, but a lot of the same colors I just mentioned. And I'm using a lot bigger, it depends, if I'm in the river arms, I'm using a lot bigger trailer. This one's, I've got a big rage craw on it. It seems like as the water gets warmer, everything in the lake, the crawdads, the shad are getting bigger, and I think as the water temperature increases, the fish's appetite and metabolism is more, so they like bigger baits. Speaking of bigger baits, a lot of my better fish have been coming on swim baits, and I'm throwing some different sized ones. Now I'm not getting very many bites, but this is just a 3/8 ounce ball head with a 3.8. This is a 1/2 ounce with a 5.8. And this one is a scrounger head. I'm using all three, using them in different baits, different situations. And I'm using anywhere from a 1/2 ounce to a 3/4 ounce scrounger head. Now some of these fish, I'm letting the bait get down about 10 to 12 feet, some of them around submerged timber, pole timber, and it's not just so much up in the river arms where there's a lot of stain throughout the lake. You know, it's working good normally where the water is gin clear, like around Kimberling and Baxter, where normally we got 15, 20 foot of visibility. There's stain in the water where, visibility is about 4 or 5 feet. So the swim baits are still working up in that area, pretty well. And I'm kind of mixing it up where I'm fishing it. A lot of times I'm looking with my Garmin Panoptic. A lot of times I can see the fish out in front of the boat at a certain depth suspended, or you can see them on your 2D sonar, and then I'll just back away from them and cast back to them. But however deep I see them is how deep I'll try to let the swim baits go down. Another thing with these offshore fish, and even the deep diving crankbaits, which is normally more of a river deal, but where, like I say, where we've got stain in the water, it's not good. It's working in a lot of clear ends of the lake as well. I got hooked up on my bandages here. But anyways, I've been catching some on a 6XD crankbait. Some of these fish have been suspended in the treetops, and some of them, this bait will get down on 10-pound line. It'll get down about 18 foot. So if I've got brush piles or rock piles on points or just inside of points, I'm trying to get the bait down through the brush pile and banging off it. And I'll kind of do a 1, 2, 3 approach. I'll take a swim bait first because I can run the swim bait over the brush pile. Then I'll try to take a crankbait and kind of bang the brush pile with it a little bit, and then I'll either pick up a Texas rig worm or a jig, work through the same brush pile, figure out which bait the fish want. A lot of times if they're aggressive, they'll come up out of that brush pile when you swim that swim bait across the top of it. Other times you got to take that crankbait, bang it off the brush, and you'll get bit that way. But I try to do it in that 1, 2, 3 approach. If I don't get any of the first two stuck, then I can, really pick the brush pile apart with a jig or a worm. And the colors of crankbaits that are working good, sexy shad, chartreuse sexy shad, citrus shad, or even a chartreuse and blue. Usually I'll just kind of mix it up. If the darker the watercolor is, the brighter the chartreuse I'll go. If the water's pretty clear, I'll use something like this one. Got some stain, I'll use the citrus shad, and it seems to get dirtier, then I'll use the chartreuse and blue. But these fish, a lot of the fish are starting to move out deeper. Where that football jigs bite, and even a Carolina rig too, and you can throw like a baby brush hog, big brush hog, even a Texas rig worm on a Carolina rig. But a lot of the same points that we were fishing a month or so ago, just, backing out a little bit further, the fish are going a little bit deeper, and look for structure or rock breaks or drops out off them points. Sportsman Factory Outlet is continuing their Father's Day sale, I think for 3 more days. They've got a big sale on a lot of the hook clothing, just a variety of everything, discontinued rods and reels, and they got discounts throughout the store, getting ready for new product to come in. So 3 more days left on the Sportsman Factory Outlet sale. And like I say, my topwater bite, I've still got a topwater rigged up because I'll see a few fish coming up throughout the day. So I'll have like a sexy dog or a spook or a pawpaw, something I can throw quite a ways. I haven't seen any big schools of bass coming up. Early in the morning, sometimes you can pull a few off these points. But there's been some big schools of white bass that we've come across while we've been out there drop shotting. The thing about the white bass is they flat move around quick. So, you could be on one side of the lake, half hour later, they're busting on the other side. So there's been nothing real consistent, but if I get around them white bass, been catching them on a little bit smaller swim bait, pawpaws and topwater, and then if you can find a school that had come up and then went back down, that's where a spoon can be real effective. If you can see how deep the white bass went down to, you can just use either a flutter spoon or a slab spoon. Normally when they do that, if they're not out there chasing the bait, if they just come up out of the deeper water and go back down, they're a lot easier to catch, vertical fishing. When they're out there chasing after that bait fish, they're really not staying in one area. Wherever the bait goes is where the whites are going. But like I say, the fishing's been good. There's just so many different things you can do right now. You can catch fish from 2 feet to 50 foot. So you can just kind of pick your whatever you prefer to do. I've been catching quite a few fish on a 9-inch Texas rig worm too, up in the bushes and where the lake's coming up a little bit. Been fishing laydowns, and I'm sure I can catch the same fish on a jig or any kind of creature type bait. But you know, this time of year as the water gets warmer, I like to throw a big worm, and a lot of times I've got that big worm tied on, so when I'm fishing them brush piles in that 15 to 20 foot, I like to throw either a big brush hog or a 9-inch worm. Probably my favorite worm, you can't hardly get them around here, but it's a Lake Fork. It's a ringworm. Plum or black and blue works real good. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.